Welcome to the Red Sauce Podcast with Papa Joe, where we talk about anything and everything Italian and Italian-American. I'm your host, Papa Joe, head winemaker or El Capo Vinaio at Piazza Tellerico and Papa Joe's Wine Cellar. Joining me, as usual, are my daughters, Katie.
Hi.
And Beth, who just is... There she is. And we have Katie, the front of house manager and student of the Italian language and culture, and Beth, our head cook and gangster movie aficionado and head pit fan too. Our new episodes drop bi-weekly. So today we have the pleasure of welcoming another special guest, Larry Lagattuta, also known as Enrico, of the Enrico Biscotti Company in the Strip in Pittsburgh. Larry has a long history with us. We're probably relatives from about 400 years ago, before my family left Sarasota for Cersale. But then since then we've become really close, and we're basically brothers these days, or maybe some people will even say we're the same person. Although Larry's got a little more hair than I do.
You're better looking than I am.
I wouldn't go that far. So anyway, here we are. Let's get started. We usually start with Katie, so Katie will start today as usual.
Well, for once, I actually don't have notes typed up.
No, that's okay. We don't need notes.
We don't
have
need
Larry.
notes. Yeah. I'm usually the one doing, like 5-6 hours of research for each podcast, so I have something to talk about. But interviews are a little bit easier. So
this should be an easy one.
Yeah. All right, Larry. Let's talk about Enrico's. How'd you get started?
Oh boy, that happened a long time ago. I was an account exec at AT&T, and I used to stop at the first espresso bar in Pittsburgh, La Prima, and to get a coffee. And there were a bunch of Italians, and they loved me, and I loved them, and it was really fun. I met a guy who was a baker. He was a night baker at an old restaurant in Pittsburgh called La Normande. It doesn't exist anymore. But he was the night guy. His English was terrible. He just moved over here. His wife and kids, they're looking for a house, and we used to talk in the mornings. And he started making things for Sam at La Prima. And one day, Patty, had his biscotti people. They had a bakery in St. Louis, and it burned down. So Sam was bemoaning the fact that what am I going to do for biscotti? I don't know how to make biscotti. I said, geez, Sam, anybody can make biscotti. I mean, every old grandmother in the world can make biscotti. I can make it. Anybody can make it. And he said, would you make some for me? And I said, yeah, sure. So I went and I made like 10 pounds, and I brought it down in a big ceramic bowl and put it on the counter. Antonio saw that, and he started eating them, and he said, these are really good. Sam Patty wants to pay me. And I said, you can't pay me. I mean, it's a gift for you. Forget about it. I'm not even thinking about it. All right. Antonio hears people call me Larry. Larry doesn't exist in Italian. It would be Lorenzo. He hears Larry in his Italian brain. Larry. He hears Henry, and he writes a little note card on the ceramic bowl, and it says "Un regalo da Enrico." A gift from Henry.
Wow.
So that's where Enrico started.
That's amazing.
And Sam kept asking me to make biscotti. I started making it with Antonio. I got my own place. 31 years later, here we are. Crazy.
Yeah.
That's an amazing story.
That's exactly what you expected to happen, right?
Right.
But what would you expect from a Calabrese? Seriously. I mean, just like the old country, our towns, we're all inbred. You started with Sam.
Yep.
We started with you.
And Sam.
Everybody started with the Sinceris. It's just amazing. Yeah.
It really has been it's been a great adventure so far.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not over by any stretch, but it's been a gas.
Yep. Well, so I guess we should tell them how we got together, right?
Yes.
So I was probably 19, Katie was 20, 21, and we went to take a bread class. So my dad comes home from the Strip one day and he says, hey, we're going to go take a bread class at Enrico Biscotti. And I said, Enrico Biscotti? I said, that's a bakery, Dad. He goes, yeah, they make bread. And I said, no, they don't. And he said, yeah, they do, in the back, in the cafe. And I said, no, they don't have a cafe. And he said, yes, they do. This place is hidden. I mean, it's one of the hidden gems of Pittsburgh, honestly. So he says, right back the alley, there's a cafe. So I didn't believe him, still. And he says, are you fucking coming or not? And I said, yeah, I'm fucking coming. Let's go. So we come, and you can wear your pajamas. So that went well for me. And we show up and we take the bread class and we loved it.
Pretty
So,
sure you showed up in your Seneca Valley basketball sweats.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I was still in high school or maybe I was a freshman in college, something like that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I was 19 and you were still in high school.
That would make sense.
Yeah.
So, so then after the class, we're just shooting the shit, and he said something about bottling wine, and we said, "Oh, we'll come help you bottle wine." So we came. Remember, we came bottled wine with you guys.
Actually, that was after the second time we came.
Was it?
Yeah, with the because we came, we had a special one with the family.
Okay.
And I mean, the thing that hit me was the brunch you had was phenomenal.
Oh, thanks.
I mean, it was incredible.
Yeah,
and
for
then,
anybody that hasn't taken it,
and
go
so
do
we
it.
told all we were just transplanted from Erie a few years before that. So we got all our family and friends from Erie, and we had a private class, and that's when Katie brought her limoncello.
Yep.
Yeah,
And then
that-
you
and that
asked us
kind
to
of
teach you how to
everything
make
up.
it.
My brain is exploding because
Yeah.
I'm remembering all this stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you know,
so then
it's-
it
yeah.
gets even better.
Boy.
You asked us if we could show you how to make the limoncello.
Right.
And you invited us over to your house when you lived over in Green Tree.
I remember.
So before we know it, we're best friends, all of us.
Yeah, I do remember that.
And
oh my
then
goodness.
I was, 22 studying in Rome, and Beth and Dad came to you one day and said, "Hey, Larry, what are your favorite places in Rome?" And you took a giant sheet of butcher paper, drew us a map.
Oh boy,
I still have that map.
Oh my goodness.
It's in my
gracious, I got
like
goosebumps.
keepsake
Oh.
truck. I still have it.
Boy.
You told us all of your favorite places, and
man.
we checked out most of them.
You didn't
And
know we were
then-
going down memory lane
I
today,
do love
did you?
Rome, man. I love Rome.
That's my city. I love
I
it.
know, right?
But when I came back, I remember it was right when school started, probably August or September, and you were telling me, you said, this kid I hired, he's a friend of my son's, but he can't make a cappuccino to save his life. And I was like, well, can I give it a try?
We
You
won't
said,
name names.
I don't even remember which friend it was.
Everybody's anonymous.
I don't even remember which friend it was.
There've been
But
a
you
lot.
I said, can I give it a try? And you said, you're hired. Come in tomorrow. And I talked to Johnny the first thing in the morning. He had no idea you hired me.
Boy, Johnny.
Yeah, he had no
Gosh.
idea. He's like, "Oh, Larry hired you yesterday. Okay, I guess you work here now." And he helped me set up my little espresso bar on the sidewalk.
I remember that. That was
Ever
great.
since
that was
then,
a lot
like
of fun.
a month later, you hired Beth.
And I remember coming to your house up in
Zelianople.
Hooterville up there.
Yep.
And
Hooterville.
we was sausage making. Everybody
Sopressata.
was making sopressata, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And I remember, Joe, you said, what would it take if you wanted to open your own little place? And I'm like, you do not want to open your own
Exactly.
little place.
Oh, you told us that for
Definitely
years.
do
Yep.
not want to do that. I remember that conversation
Every
explicitly.
time we had a conversation about this, you'd say, "All right, if you're really serious about this, first thing I got to tell you is don't do it."
Right.
But then after that, it's some advice.
Well, I appreciate
And
that.
you've been a lot of help, and actually a lot of you was in here. There's
That's very sweet.
there's first of all a lot of my mom
Yeah,
and,
oh,
and
yeah.
my grandmother and my dad and the family, and then a lot of the places you sent us to in Italy, because you sent us to the off the beaten path,
Yeah.
real Italian places,
Yeah.
and a lot of your input. I mean, that's really what made
Well,
this
thanks,
place.
I appreciate it. And I love this place.
Yeah.
This is such an amazing space. I mean, it really is a great
Thank you.
space,
Thank you, Larry. Yeah, but I mean, that's basically when that became history. We were with you guys for 5 or 6 years until we
Yep.
opened this place.
Yep.
I left briefly to go work in Mount Lebanon and then came back to you because
Right, I remember.
can't leave you too long, can I, Larry?
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
It's a really good thing.
So I honestly think one of the best things you ever did for me personally, or for us up here, like to help us get going, was in the 5 or 6 years that we worked down there, I did every single job I think you could do. I worked
Yeah,
in the
you did.
bakery. I helped bake. I rolled macaroons. I waitressed. I
Covered cookies.
did
Yeah.
dishes.
Everything.
All that stuff. And then
true.
the only thing I hadn't done yet was cooked. And you said, "Who the hell's gonna cook up the street?" And I said, "Me." And you said, "All right." And you said, "Get in the back." And I said, "What do you mean?" You said, "You're cooking today." And it was like a Thursday afternoon. And I'm like, "Oh shit." And you said, "If you really want to do this, you're not going to drown up the street. Drown right here in front of me so I can get you out." But
Right. How are you going to get in the
Yeah.
weeds? That's
Yep.
the only way to get out of the weeds.
That's
is to
right.
Get in the weeds.
Yep.
You have to
Yeah.
know how to do that. I was thinking about that the other day. I forget where we were. We were at some restaurant in town, nameless. And the guy was in the weeds. I mean, he was just buried. And his boss was giving him a hard time. Was really giving the guy a hard time. And we kind of caught eyes. And I said, "You in the weeds?" He was like, "Yeah." Well, just get out of it. That's all. Just start and finish. Start
Yep.
do your thing.
Yeah.
I don't know, I don't know but that's the only way to get out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to work your way out.
And I think, because Joe and I talk about the business, my business, this business, the only way to get through these troubles is to get through them.
Yeah.
The only way to get out of a hole is to stop digging.
Yeah.
All that, it's simple math, but boy, it shouldn't
And-
feel like it at the times, does it?
And actually, you're a prophet because we're still not out of the weeds here. We're still not in the black.
I don't know if I'm out of the weeds either. I mean, come on.
But because the restaurant business is a tough business. I mean, and we're almost there, but we're still not out of the weeds yet.
Yeah.
It's funny because my profession is an anesthesiologist, and basically I've been spoiled over the years because I could leave my job today. And I could walk across the street, get a job. I'd have all the patients I needed. I'd make all the money I needed to make. It's not like that in the restaurant business.
not like
It's
that.
just not like that at all.
And I think
it's a
isn't it-
tough business.
I also find it amazing. Isn't it amazing when you think about this whole COVID thing for the last years, 3
Yeah.
years? The businesses that everybody talks about are the restaurants and the cafes and the bakeries and those kinds of businesses. The kinds of business where people put their heart and soul in and just give it everything that they have.
Yeah.
With the understanding that there is no promise of tomorrow. I mean, there's none.
None whatsoever.
So I always said that having a business like this, and I think you guys understand. This is like being a priest, like what a priest does. He gets everything all set up, the whole deal. You open the doors, you hope somebody shows up.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's exactly what we do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We get everything prepped and get everything going, and you go, it's a beautiful day, and you open the doors, and then you just hope that somebody comes in.
And sometimes
It's
they
really
don't.
terrifying. Isn't
It
it?
is.
It's
It's
kinda
very
scary,
terrifying.
Sometimes they
Absolutely.
don't.
You're right. Sometimes
You're right.
they don't.
Sometimes they don't. Yeah.
It's crazy. It's insanity.
But you know what? The fact that we're here and Larry's here today, that says a lot because a lot of us aren't.
Right.
And I think what that means is that we're going to be here for a few more years.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now it's our choice. I hope.
I mean, it's still not easy.
No.
But I think that we've seen the worst. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I think so. I think you're right.
God, I
you're
hope
right.
so.
Yeah, I think you're right.
All right, so let's get to our subject for today, which is Italian baking. Everything from bread, cookies, pastries, the whole deal.
Biscotti.
Biscotti, especially biscotti.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
You want to start?
I don't know where I'm going,
Well,
but
no.
sure.
Ask Larry something
Oh, you
about
know where you're going.
Yeah, you know where you're going.
I don't know.
I don't know where I'm going.
Drive.
Okay.
All right. Well, all right. So when did you get into the bread making?
So maybe the store was open for maybe 2 years, and the space is about as big as this space. What is it, like 500 square feet? This room? right
Most
here?
likely, yeah.
Yeah. So I had
Yeah.
a 500 square foot bakery with a double stack convection, 3-bowl sink, a mixer. This was it. So we really used everything except for about 8 feet. I was working back there. There was one counter and that was it. Well, excuse me, the mechanic, there was a mechanic in the garage behind me, and he was retiring. And I thought, boy, I'm going to take that space, but I can't afford it. I think at the time it was like $900 a month. I'm like, where the hell am I going to get $900 a month to pay the rent on this place, But it has 3-foot thick concrete floors because they used to bring in tractor trailers and fix them, right? And I thought, boy, I could put a brick oven back there. I mean, it's got enough mass to do that. So I agreed to take the place and put a brick oven in there. I built it with a contractor, a local contractor. He was a great guy. We bought the brick from a building that they had torn down, so it was all used brick. And then he put the fire brick on the inside. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to make bread. So I made, I don't know, I was making like 15 loaves of bread a day, And that was going pretty well. And then somebody said, you know what you should do? You should make a soup to go with the bread. That would make a lot of sense. And I thought, that would make a lot of sense. So we started making, well, then you get a soup, should have a salad, as well.
Yeah.
And then it started that, and then, the whole thing. But the bread that I make is the same bread it's the bread that my grandmother made. That was her bread. It's her bread.
Well, when you talk about that bread, did you see Stanley Tucci last night? by
I
any
didn't
chance?
watch it last night.
Oh.
No, I recorded it, but I didn't see it.
Do you ever heard of Marcello?
Yeah.
He had they talked about Marcello, okay? And what they did when they made their Marcello, they had
Is it Marcello or
The
Morcello?
round bread, just like you make, exactly like you'll get from Enrico's. They cut out the top, pulled off the top.
Yeah.
They threw some meat in, some
Yeah.
fresh vegetables.
Yeah.
Then they put the top back on, and that's what the farmers, the grape growers and all that used to take down to the fields with them. And of all things, they wrapped it in linen. But they didn't have paper bags, and obviously didn't have plastic bags. But when I saw that, I said, "Hey, there's Larry's bread there." I mean, that's perfect.
I think that so.
And that looks so good.
That's a really good story, and I think it is endemic. Is that the right word? I think
Yeah.
it's endemic
Look
of
that way when you ask
endemic of
vocabulary
the
questions.
You can edit that later.
Yeah.
I think it's endemic of the kinds of products that are in this particular area. I think Western Pennsylvania is loaded with the tri-state area, right? Western Pennsylvania, northwestern Virginia or West Virginia, and then that little corner of Ohio. All of those kinds of products are cucina povero. That's poor people food.
Yeah.
From the bread
Yep.
to the pepperoni rolls, which the miners used to take down into the mines with them. It was a West Virginia thing. I think if you go anywhere in this country outside of this tri-state area, and you say to somebody, "I want a pepperoni roll," they're going to be like, "What the hell are you talking
they
about?
have no
I
idea.
never even saw one before."
Yeah.
Right.
I think to the whole world who's listening to this, that is a great business opportunity. Pepperoni rolls.
Yeah.
I'm willing to do
Absolutely,
it,
yeah.
But I think
Oh,
it's
yeah.
a great idea. But it's
Yeah.
that same thing. It's that
Exactly,
cucina
yeah.
povero. It's poor people food.
And the one disappointment I had with his show last night, he was in Calabria, is he never mentioned the word cucina povera. And
That's
and
insane.
he spent, as he does, he spent more time with doing the swordfish and all that kind of.
He's Calabrese, isn't he?
No.
Yeah, he
No?
is. Well, he said both of his families were Calabrese.
Really? I
He
thought
said
they were
his-
both from Italy. I don't know if they were both
Yeah,
from
he
Calabria.
I
said
thought they were
last night.
Calabria, yeah.
kidding.
He said his
I'm
mother's
surprised.
family was from Tropea.
Oh, Pirate City.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Awesome.
And actually, there was a dish there that looked really good to me. I'm not a big onion guy, but with Tropea onions, apparently
Tropea
you can
onions
eat
are
those.
spectacular.
And he
You just
did.
eat 'em.
He ate it like
Yeah,
ate it like
they're
an
so
apple.
good.
But they had pasta, Tropea onions, couple of vegetables, and I think chicken broth.
Have you been to Tropea?
No, I haven't.
You guys
It's
have
really
to go.
been
Tropea
good.
it is literally a pirate city, and the buildings are all like bright blue and bright red and pink and orange. So it looks
Yeah.
like it kind of looks like you're in
The Caribbean.
North Africa. You know
Or-
what I mean?
yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And Tropea, was a pirate city. The Tropean pirates used to float out, steal the wheat from the Romans, who were moving it up from southern Italy, and then sell it in the black market in a little town called Tripoli, right? Mm-hmm. When the Tripoli market was overflowing and the price of wheat started to go down, these Tropean pirates would float down the coast of Africa, across the Atlantic, and sell this to the pirates in the Gulf of Mexico. Now, it gets even better. These Tropean pirates are such badasses that 250 years ago, America is having a hard time. We're starving over here, right? The Brits are here. There's no food.
Yeah.
What are we going to do? The founders get a hold of the king of the two Sicilies and say, "Send us some wheat." He says, "I'll do it." It doesn't come. Where's our wheat? The Tropean pirates are stealing it. Thomas Jefferson buys a couple of really fast ships from the French. Robert Morris paid for them.
Oh, nice.
And on those boats, he put some badass American sailors who sailed from the halls of Montezuma to the shores of
Oh,
Tripoli.
okay.
This was the United States Marine Corps, founded
Yeah.
in 1775 to fight the Tropean pirates. When they got to Tropea, guess what? They got their asses beat. That's why you see a Marine, he's got a red stripe on his uniform. That red stripe represents to the American Marines. It says, "We were defeated one time. We'll never be defeated again."
And it was
because
Tropean
of Tropea.
pilots.
It was
Wow.
Tropean pirates. Isn't that
Wow.
crazy?
Yeah.
That's
How it all
insane.
Wait,
kind of
is
wraps
that-
together.
Whoa.
Is that like the John Paul Jones thing you told me that one time? You love that guy,
I
don't
love
you?
John. It's my boy.
Or is that a totally different
He's
story?
my boy. Different story.
Okay.
He's my boy.
Well,
All
going
right.
back to the beginning of the story, the first fucking mistake was the colonists depending on the British for food. Now give
I
me a
know.
fucking break. Come on
I
now.
know, right?
Yeah.
Right? They said grow your own wheat. We're going to grow
Yeah.
wheat in America, Philadelphia.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Ah, well. But it's been a heck of a journey with bread, and I really,
Yeah.
I enjoy making bread. It doesn't make me a lot of money, but I love that bread, and I think, and you guys feel the same way. When you take a dish out and you put it on somebody's table, and you look at that dish and you're like, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And you're like,
your
I
customers
fucking
look at it and
nailed
go
it.
like, this is pretty good. Or people come in and go, I gotta have whatever it is. I gotta have your meatballs because I just love them.
Or a fried zucchini,
and
yeah.
that's the best.
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
goes back to what we were saying earlier. That's this dream that kind of, this nightmare of owning a restaurant that becomes a beautiful dream.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When somebody
Yeah.
comes in and says, I really love this, and you're like, oh my God, I love you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Larry, I got to
You
tell
know?
you, I've told this story before on the podcast, but Beth and I, when we lived in Bloomfield, when we were going to Pitt, working for you, we had taken the bread class 3 times at this point. You know, twice just in general, and then once with our family. And we had an old Italian landlady living down below us. Her name was Janetta, and she was the sweetest old woman. Every time we go to pay the rent, it would turn into like a 3-hour affair where she'd give us coffee and cookies and all this stuff. Well, she invited us to dinner one night.
She still took the rent money, though.
She did.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
We just had to make sure we had enough
I'm
time to
just
sit
saying,
down
you know what I
there.
mean?
She invited us to dinner one night, and I said, "Can I bring something?" And she says, "You bring bread." So of course I'm not going to get her some store-bought shit. You know, I made the bread you taught me how to make. And she picks up the loaf. She looks at it. She taps it with her knuckles. She goes, "You make this bread?" I said, "Yeah." She goes, "Oh, I find you a good man." I'm still waiting for him, but you know.
He's coming, don't worry.
You did bring it in plastic, didn't you?
I know better than that.
You know, that's
torture.
one of my pet peeves. I mean, we're pretty authentic here. We get the bread from the Breadworks, which is really, as far as
Yeah,
you know,
they do a good job.
They do a really
I know
good job.
Mike McKenna.
And it just drives me fucking crazy when I walk in here and I see it still in the plastic bag sitting up on here. And first thing I do is I rip the bag open. I said, "You don't put Italian bread in
Plastic is the
in
enemy,
plastic." I mean,
right?
I understand they have to do it because they leave it
Oh,
out,
of course
out on the curb,
they have
and
to do
you
it, yeah.
can't let it
Yeah.
get rained on.
But you want it out of there as soon as possible.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
mean,
if
you
you
know,
want-
and everything. I mean, it's you just have to do all of that stuff.
Yeah. And
But
it
it's
gets gummy.
just
Yeah,
wrong. You know, it's
Yeah.
just wrong. Plastic's the enemy.
they do it with white bread because you can't fuck up white bread.
White bread. What are you gonna do?
You know,
You know
it's
what I
funny.
mean?
You,
It's already as bad as it's going to
and
be.
It's as bad as it's gonna
brings,
be.
This brings me up to another story. When you did your bread class, you always say the Romans like white bread.
Yes.
And
Rome
every-
wants white bread.
And every time I hear that story, I think of another of my pet peeves. And when these fucking Medicons, they say it's the best thing since sliced bread.
Yeah.
Sliced bread is the
Another one.
worst thing in the history of the
Exactly.
world. I mean, come
Although
on,
you know,
give me-
I have to tell you, when I was a kid, growing up in Beachview, we had bread. I mean,
Yeah.
You know, mother made bread, my aunt made bread, my grandmother made bread. We had bread. And when we would go to Tommy Lamb's house, who was this little Irish kid that lived on the other side of town,
Yeah.
and his Irish mother, who was transparent. She was wonderful, but she
Yeah.
had no skin tone. She was like transparent, wonderful woman. She would make us like cheese sandwiches with mayonnaise and American cheese and white bread. Oh my God, we were like, we'd go home and go like, why can't we have that?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what we wanted, you know. It was
I
kind
know.
of crazy. It was funny.
Oh my God.
But by
Yeah.
the time you get to be 15 or 16, you
Yeah, then you
develop
kinda
the
know,
taste
yeah.
Then you
of
get
the
an
real stuff.
appreciation,
Yeah,
yeah.
no.
As a matter of fact, that's why I used to, when I was up in Erie, I used to occasionally carry a 9mm Beretta because I was on call at the hospital at night and they were hijacking cars for a while.
Whoa.
But that's what made me quit carrying the Beretta because I thought the next time somebody said it was the best thing since white bread, I was afraid I'd shoot up the fuckers.
That's great.
So I don't even have it anymore. My son has it.
That's good. That's good.
Well, on the podcast, we're allowed to use the term Wonder Bread Wop, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, are we? Okay.
Yep. Yeah, because it's the podcast. We can say whatever the fuck we
All
want on the
right,
podcast.
that works, okay.
People are choosing to listen to this.
They won't
Bread Wop.
let me say that on Facebook.
Well, he wants to say it on Facebook and Instagram,
Right.
but with the people that are listening to this want to listen to our bullshit.
Okay.
So there's that episode of The Sopranos when he calls
Right.
his neighbor John Cusimano, he calls him a Wonder Bread
Wonder
Wop.
Bread Wop.
He says he's the kind of guy my old man would have called a Wonder Bread Wop. He eats his Sunday gravy out of a jar. And he says, now he's Italian, but he's a Medigan. My old man would have called him a Wonder Bread Wop.
A spaghetti-o Italian. That's what we call
Yep.
it.
Well, you know, and that's,
A spaghetti-o Italian.
that actually reminds me of coming to your restaurant on a Saturday morning, and I mean his brunches are incredible, and you know like the French toast and that thing.
Yeah.
And it just always hit me funny that, I mean you go in there, you usually get a seat at your place.
Yeah.
On a Saturday morning,
A
and
little bit
across
of
the
wait,
street, you got that restaurant.
Yeah, DeLuca's across
The
the
Lucas
street.
across
Been
the
there
street.
forever.
that has Wonder Bread French toast,
Yeah.
and they have a line down the street. I
Yeah.
mean, where are these people's tastes at?
It's because he was on, what's it called?
Well, I got to tell you though, I remember somebody was talking to me about the Strip. One of the people who lives in those apartment buildings, that the new apartments in the Strip, came in and was talking to me about the Strip and asking me about the days. And I said, "You guys have me thinking about things in the past now." When we were little, my older brother Joe, and he's 5 years older than I. My mother would drive us down to the Strip on a Saturday morning, 6:30 in the morning, drop us off, boot us out of the car. We're in our pajamas, literally in our pajamas. My brother Joe would hold my hand, would go into DeLuca's, where Larry and Henry and Vince DeLuca would make us breakfast on those little stools and would spin around. At 7 o'clock in the morning, my father would come in because he was unloading boxcars on the platform. He'd come in, he'd have breakfast with his coffee, and then would leave. Can you imagine, like, just kicking your 5-year-old?
Not these days.
No, just
Yeah,
kicking
never.
your 5-year-old out on Penn Avenue.
We don't even let my nieces and nephews walk from here to my parents' house around the block.
Yeah,
Because,
I mean, it's so
yeah.
it's like what do you call it? It's a conflict of interest in my brain because I look at DeLuca's and I see all the people standing in line, and I'm very happy for Chris. I mean, I think it's awesome.
And it's a good
it's different
restaurant.
than when I was a little boy.
Yeah.
It's completely different.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, things
It's fun.
change.
I mean, it's fun. I'm gonna ask you to do that.
Yeah,
again.
absolutely.
And if you,
So
I mean,
good.
they've been around forever.
Yes, they've been around
so,
forever.
yeah. And their food is good.
It's fine.
I mean,
great.
it's just
fine.
not,
diner
it's just
food.
not, it's just not what we
Diner
like.
food.
Yeah,
It's not what we like. It's not what we like. We like what we like.
Yeah.
What are you
Pass
gonna
this
do?
to Larry, please.
Thank you.
But I mean, back to your bread, and
She gave you a healthy one this
one more
time.
thing I have to say about your bread before we go on to the other stuff. 4 ingredients, right?
Yep.
4 ingredients.
Yep.
And
Yeast,
it's
salt, flour, water.
and which is true to the Southern Italian simplicity.
Yep.
People think that you have to have all these spices and all this bullshit in there. 4 ingredients.
The tradition was that, especially in southern Italy, you would mix your own flour, salt, and water. You'd mix it up, nice and wet, soupy. Then you would walk it to the fornaio, to the baker, and he would put it on top of the brick oven. Then you go off and do your job. At the end of the day, you come back, pick up that bowl. The natural yeast has instilled itself in the dough.
It's risen, yeah.
And now it's going to rise. So then tomorrow morning you can make bread with wild yeast. I mean, they didn't go to the grocery store and buying dried yeast. There's no
Yeah.
fresh yeast. I mean, it was whatever was natural. It was that natural yeast that was floating around.
Yeah.
And it was always in the bakery.
And now, if you want to charge $15 a loaf, you call it sourdough.
Correct.
But that's what it was. I mean,
That's
yeah,
tough stuff.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. That's funny.
That's crazy. I'd never heard that before. That's cool.
Really is cool.
So when you make bread, I remember you teaching me, obviously, because I would do flatbreads for you and all that stuff, and pizza dough and whatever. You put the flour in the bowl first.
Yeah.
Why is that?
So
Because for pizza, you go backwards.
right. So
Yeah.
flour is when bread it's always flour. Pizza dough is always water. When you're making bread, you want to get it to that little fat part of your palm, right there under your little finger. That's what bread dough feels like. In order to do that, you need to add water to the flour. You need that hydration ratio to start, right? So it begins and you get to there. When you're making pizza dough, you don't want that kind of hydration. You want like a big fist.
Right.
So you start with water
Oh.
and you're making essentially like potter's clay. You're making Play-Doh. That's where you're headed. The only way to do that is to keep the flour as dry as possible, as long as possible. When you're
Okay.
making bread, you want the flour to be as wet as possible, as long as possible.
Okay.
So it's just a difference. This is why people who make bread dough, and then they come in and they talk to me all the time about that. Oh, well, I make bread dough and then I just stretch it out and make a pizza. All right. Well, whatever works for you. I mean, it's just not the way it is.
Yeah.
It's just not the
No,
way it
it's
is,
different, yeah.
Just different.
Huh.
It's fun, but it's different. Yep, it's fun.
Sometimes I make focaccia with leftover pizza dough.
Yeah, you can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you don't care about the rice.
Right.
Yeah, who
Yeah.
cares?
Yeah.
Yeah, the rice is not important.
Yep. Try not to waste stuff. You know how that goes.
So let's get into the.
Oh, wait, let me ask you this,
no,
because
go ahead.
when we were kids, we didn't call it focaccia. We called it pizzacchia, which is a whole long story, but that's what we called it, pizzacchia. the Medici family didn't like that. They didn't like that rough pizzeria. They didn't like the way that rolled
The way
off
it
your tongue.
sounded,
So
yeah.
they changed that bread and they called it fired bread, which was focaccia. Did you call it focaccia when you were a kid?
Did you even
What'd
have
you call
focaccia
it?
when you were a kid, Dad?
You know, I don't think we even had it, to be honest with
we
you.
called it pizzeria.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Calabrese. It's
Yeah.
Calabrese.
You know how it
Yeah,
is. I mean, everybody's, I think different people came over and Americanized in different ways, so everything that we had, you don't have, and vice versa.
Well,
that
that was-
dialect, that Italian dialect
Yeah,
just freaks
I
me
know.
right out, man.
I know.
There's so many of them.
That was
Yeah.
a discussion we were having a couple weeks ago. Larry, did your family say pasta or did they say macaroni?
We said pasta.
See, we always said macaroni, and we
Yeah.
don't know if that was like because when we went over to Italy, we saw macaroni everywhere.
Macaroni, yeah. My understanding is that macaroni, especially in southern Italy, is a specific dish.
Okay.
It is not a kind. It's not ubiquitous for pasta.
See,
It is a
our
particular
family used
dish.
it interchangeably.
Yeah,
Well-
we just called it pasta.
Actually, you know what? Not necessarily, because
Really?
we had the macaroni, which was with the sauce,
Correct.
but we also had pasta fagioli,
Oh yeah,
which was macaroni and beans.
right.
So yeah,
And it's that southern that southern Italian. You drop that last vowel.
exactly. Yeah,
Pasta fagioli.
yeah.
Which
Super
is really
sock.
Pasta
Yeah.
e fagioli.
Oh, I've talked about this how
Italian.
you used to yell at me for dropping my vowels.
Yeah.
All the time.
If you're gonna speak Italian, let's do it.
Yeah, that's exactly what you said. You said, Dad, where did you want to go from here? You said you were about to say something.
Yeah, I think let's get into the sweeter stuff,
Yeah.
the cookies, the pastries, and that kind of thing. And what's Italian about cookies and pastries? You're going to say what isn't Italian about cookies and pastries?
Well, that was
Yeah.
kind of where I was gonna go. But so since you stole my my lead in there, look, I think Italians love sweets. They love sweets. I think, boy, come on, maybe the Viennese. You know what I mean? Who loves sweets more than the Italians? But the Italians, I think, love sweets in that particular way. It can't be too sweet. It can't be too big. It can't be too ostentatious. It just needs to be just right. Do you know?
Absolutely.
And I got these, over the years I collected all these recipes, and they come from all these old Italian women who just baked these crazy things that were just tremendous. And I think that we live that life, so you have a nice dinner, and it's great, and then you wait a little while, and then you have a pastry, and that pastry, whatever that is kind of a special treat for you. It's not like, like the way you see in a restaurant here where you have an appetizer, you have dinner, and then you have dessert. Come on. The Italians wouldn't do that. They would have maybe a little antipasta and a glass of wine and sit for an hour and then have something to eat and then wait for an hour and then go somewhere else and grab a coffee and a pastry. Do you know?
Right. Oh yeah.
And I think it's just terrific. That's what I still do.
Well, that's what
I love to do
my
that.
mom's family is very much. They've been here. They're German, but they've been here so long that they have those American style dinners where they had dessert after every meal.
Right.
And
Yeah.
we never. I mean, we go
No,
go to
they're
my
treats.
grandparents on the
They're
other side.
treats.
Yeah.
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 To us, that was never the case. Like,
Right.
because
Well,
I mean,
yeah.
unfortunately for mom's family, dad's family's culture took over.
Well, IBM.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Oh,
how
we
you
did.
buy
Grandma
marriage.
did always have a can of pizzelles in the bedroom, though.
All the time.
Always.
All
Yeah.
the time.
Well, it's funny because when you talk about the Italian pastries and the cookies and everything, and people in Pittsburgh talk about the cookie table at the weddings.
Yeah.
That's a Pittsburgh tradition. I don't think it's a Pittsburgh tradition. I think it's an Italian tradition that was brought to Pittsburgh.
I don't. You know what? I've never been to an Italian wedding in Italy.
Yeah.
I don't
Let's
know.
go crash one. Let's find out.
We should
Yeah,
crash.
let's do it.
That's what exactly.
Let's do it.
Oh, what a great idea.
Yeah.
Oh, we should.
Yep.
You can be
Let's
best
go.
date. I'll be
Oh my
Maureen's.
God, I love that
I'll
idea.
be Maureen's date. You can be.
I love that
Yep.
idea. We need to do that. So I don't
Sam
know
can
that.
take that.
I do know that when they got here, look, when they got here, they didn't have anything because they were all Southerns.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a population of Northern Italians in this area, but it's not big. Not
Right.
compared
And
to
that
the
wasn't
Southern
until
Italians.
the later
Yeah, right.
1900s.
I
till-
don't think they
yeah.
had any money, and I think looking at a wedding cake would be just like, why would you do that? Let's just do the cookies. I went to a wedding in Youngstown, Ohio, a couple of months ago. Oh my God, They baked for like 2 weeks. There was the table. It was spectacular. I mean, they had everything in the world there, and that's what they kind of said. They were like, you know what? We didn't have anything when we got there. So we just made cookies. And,
That's what our grandma did it for all of our brothers' weddings.
Yeah.
Well, and actually, speaking of Youngstown, you know where Loretta was from?
Youngstown.
Yeah, my mother had a best friend, Loretta. And those two used to get together for everything, and they just make. And Loretta had more cookie recipes than Grandma.
Oh, she had tons.
Yeah,
she was the originator of our pizzelle recipe.
Yeah, well, she and
boy.
Yeah.
and I mean the between the two of them,
You guys doing the thick pizzelles or the thin pizzelles?
we did the thin.
Pretty
The
thin.
thins are,
Yeah.
you touch the table and they break.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
I
those are the
love that
ones.
kind. Oh
Yeah.
my god, those are my favorite ones.
We'll bring
Yeah.
you some.
Yeah, I love
Yeah.
them.
Okay, but yeah, they used. I mean, they'd make 30 or 40 different kinds of cookies for
Sure.
a wedding or for a birthday party, for anything. Yeah.
And the old ladies would come with their purses and open them
Yeah.
up but just put them inside.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
When
yeah.
my daughter got married, we had bags printed with an article from the New York Times that explained the cookie table for all the white people
I
who
remember
were there.
that. I worked
and
at
they
that
would,
wedding.
Yeah.
take the bags and stuff their.
I made
stuff their
coffee for
cookies
that
in.
wedding. I remember. I
remember.
ran the espresso
It
machine.
was 6 years ago.
Wait, speaking of Maddie's wedding, we should talk about the Dwayne Dolphin story. Remember that?
Which one?
So Dwayne,
I love Dwayne.
Dwayne came in, I mean, once a week when I was working
Yeah.
down there. Is he still down there a lot?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, good. All right. How's he doing? Good.
I gave him my Vespa.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah. Now you know Dwayne.
yeah.
I mean, Dwayne's a big man.
Yes,
Yeah.
he is.
Can that giant of a man riding down the street in a Vespa?
Better
Oh,
than
that's
him.
gotta be
Oh,
great.
wow.
Unbelievable,
That's gotta be great.
Better
to
than
see.
Oh,
him.
he's way bigger than you.
But no,
Oh, I
but
know,
better.
I know.
Yeah.
Because
yeah,
Dad-
I know better. I
Dad
know.
crashed his
I
in a
know.
month.
I know. What are you
Yeah,
gonna do?
Yep,
What
I
are
was
you gonna do?
pissed at
Anyway,
you.
what do you? I don't
Anyway,
remember that story.
so Dwayne comes in all the time. I didn't know who he was. He was just Dwayne that came in for a bowl of macaroni, right?
Yeah.
So he comes in one day, it's like a week or two before Maddie's wedding, and he says, "Are you going to Maddie's wedding?" And I said, "Well, actually, all of us are working it. Like pretty much every single person that works here is, we're all going." So I said, "Are you going?" He said, "Yeah, I'm playing it." I said, "What do you mean you're playing it?" And he goes, "I play the bass." And I'm like, "Oh, that's cool." And he's like, "Yeah." So Larry asked me to play. I'm like, "Awesome. That's great." So still didn't know this guy was anybody, right?
He's a legend.
So
Yeah.
the one day we're waiting for Katie, and she was working at the Artsmiths at the time or something. So we're waiting for her in the strip. And I said to my dad, I'm like, "Hey, why don't we go over to the Leaf and Bean, just hang out?" And we had a bottle of whiskey in the back seat. He's like, "All right, yeah, let's go." And I said, "You can bring your whiskey in with you." He's like, "Oh, cool. All right, let's do it." So we go in.
Even better.
Yeah, exactly. We go in, we sit down, we're sitting there just sipping on whiskey, waiting for Katie. Dwayne comes in. He's like, "Beth, what's going on?" And I'm like, "Nothing. How are you?" "Good." And we're shooting the shit. And so then he sits down, and my dad looks at him and he goes, "Dwayne, what's your last name?" And he says, "Dolphin." My dad looks at me and he goes, "You're friends with Dwayne Dolphin and you didn't tell me?" And I
Yeah.
look at him and I'm like, wait, I don't know what's going on here.
It probably took me half an hour. His name was Dwayne, and he plays the bass. And all of a sudden, I'm thinking, "Is this
He
Dwayne
is
Dolphin?"
amazing. And again,
Yeah.
that's a whole strip thing.
Yeah.
Right? I met Dwayne over at the Leaf and Bean smoking a cigar, and we're hanging out. And he's talking to me about New Orleans. And I said, "You know what? I'm not going back to New Orleans. New Orleans almost killed me a couple of times." And he's doing, "Well, my boss used to take us out. I would finish work and then would drink all night and would eat all night and blah, 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 and would sleep all day." I said, "That's a nice boss you have there. I mean, that's a pretty good boss."
I mean, I've drank with you at Leaf and Bean many times. So.
Right?
So I
he's
know
like,
a
"Oh,
good
yeah.
boss.
Oh, yeah, we got..." Well, I appreciate that, but not like Dwayne's boss. So he says, "Oh, yeah, we would drink all night and, and I said, "You drink all night and then work all day?" He said, "No, we'd sleep all day." I said, "Dwayne, I don't know who he is." I said, what kind of job did you have?" He said, "I played the bass." I said, "Who's your boss?" He said, "My boss is Wynton Marsalis." Like, damn! And I asked Dwayne to play the wedding, and I wanted him to play one particular song, "Cast Your Fate to the Wind," because that's what you do.
Yeah.
That's what you do when you get married. You cast your fate to the wind. Hope for the best.
Yep.
It's true.
Yeah.
like,
well,
like what we do.
yeah. Well, we went and saw Dwayne play down in the Strip.
Yeah.
One night. I can't remember where it was, but
It was,
The cigar place.
yeah, it's like
Yeah, I
a
know
block
what you
before
mean.
you this way.
Yeah, I know.
he was playing with Roger Humphreys,
Oh, yeah, come on.
and Beth, I mean, well, I brought these girls up with jazz, and you know, I mean, I was the only one in the family except for my dad and even my mom to a lesser
When we
extent.
were kids, he took us to a Houston Person concert.
Oh, that
And
was
we
awesome.
we met him during
Yes.
an intermission.
Yeah.
And he dedicated a song to his youngest fans, Beth and Katie.
Whoa, no
Yeah.
kidding.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so fun. And it's all the strip,
Yeah.
man. It's all,
Yeah.
it's all this part of town.
So anyway,
It's where
Beth,
these people are.
Beth goes up and asks Dwayne or Roger Humphreys to play "Song for My Father," and she had
Oh, that's a great song.
she had no clue. And so I have a friend, a guy, an anesthesiologist I work with over at Presby named Dave Boudreau, that's really into jazz, and she requested this. He said, you know, he tells us, he says, you know, Roger Humphrey played the original "Song for My Father" with oh, I can't remember who it was.
I don't know.
But yeah, I'll think of it before
That's
we're
a
done. But,
great song.
but yeah, but anyway, and so Roger Humphrey says, hey, you know, I had a young girl come and ask me to play one of an old great song.
Wow.
He was thrilled by it.
Yeah, because I
Yeah.
remember when you used to listen to, what was the name of that radio station? The jazz station.
WDQ.
That's
Yeah,
it,
GQ, yeah.
With
Tony Mowat.
Tony Mowat. Oh,
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
God, I
That
love
was
Tony
such a great
Mowat.
station.
He's dead now, isn't he?
Yeah, he
That's what I
died.
thought.
Oh, is he dead now?
Yeah, I think
Oh, that's a
I think he
shame.
did.
Yeah.
You know what? We were in. You're talking about Dwayne. We were in Rome, and it was we were with a group. I took a group over, and Maureen and I. On this particular night, everybody's on their own.
Horace Silver. I'm sorry. Horace Silver.
Silver.
That's who we played it with. Go ahead. Sorry.
We go into this little jazz club in Rome, and we go in and we sit down, and they're playing great stuff. And I asked the guy on a little break if he would play "Cast Your Fate to the Wind," and he said, "Oh, that's so you know some jazz." And we were talking about, and I said, I have a friend of mine who played jazz with this guy, that guy, and this guy. And he said, "What's his name?" I said, "Dwayne Dolphin." He goes, "I know Dwayne. I'm in Rome, in Rome, in a jazz club. Isn't that crazy?"
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Crazy.
I know
That's
Dwayne.
great.
It's all Pittsburgh, man.
That's
it's
cool.
all about Pittsburgh.
Well, you know, I have to talk a little bit about the culture thing here, you know, because I mean, I grew up, and I always tell people this, I grew up as a ignorant redneck in Erie, Pennsylvania. Even though I was Italian, there were a lot of Italian ignorant rednecks.
Yeah, sure.
I
There
mean,
still
and,
are.
and you know, I mean, we had a lot of misconceptions about black people,
Yeah.
about, all the different other people. What I learned over the years, and it was funny because I've read a lot about it, and, up in the Northeast, the blacks and the Italians historically didn't get along real well. But in New Orleans, they were brothers.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
The Sicilians in New Orleans.
But you know what I found as I've gotten, because when I grew up, and I've said this before many times, that I never knew a black person by name until I was 12 years old. I mean, we just were segregated from them. I never knew a Jewish person until I was 12 years old or so by name. And last week I went to a bar mitzvah, but that was my grandnephew. So that's a different story altogether.
That's funny.
But you know what I've learned is that our culture and the black culture is very, very.
Of course, we were all poor.
And you know what? And it's funny because as much as the old Dagos did not like the black people, they loved their music.
Oh yeah.
All of them. I mean, my dad loved Ella Fitzgerald.
I think,
Yeah.
first of all, there's no moral equivalency here. But the largest lynching in America happened in New Orleans, and it was all Sicilians.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
the first thing. There's no moral equivalency. I'm not saying that it's.
I was literally just telling Anna Marie about that the other day.
Because it's not. The other thing is, when the Italians came to Pittsburgh, they lived in the Hill District. We lived in the Hill District. We were in the Hill until they knocked St. Peter's down I don't know, I was little, maybe 1963 or whatever the hell it was. And everybody lived together. I was at a funeral. I was at a funeral not long ago. One of the old Italians died. And I run into a childhood friend. I'm like, "What are you doing here?" He said, "My mom's here." "Your mom's here?" "Yeah, she knew him and whatever." So I go over and say, I'm like, "Oh my God, I'm so glad to see you. How you doing?" She goes, "I'm fine. I'm 90 years old. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, it's just great. Isn't this crazy? Like we're all in the same place." She goes, "Oh honey, I knew your family back in the Hill District." I said, "You knew my family in the Hill?" She goes, "Yeah, you guys." These are her words. She goes, you guys live down in Jewtown."
Oh my God.
She goes, "You had to be really poor to live down there." And I go, "I never heard that." So I called my brother on the phone. I said, "Did you ever hear of Jewtown?" He goes, "No, I never heard that." All right, flash forward 2 weeks later, I'm at a barbecue somewhere out in Hooterville. I'm standing next to this old guy. He says, are you guys from the Hill? I said, yeah, we were from the Hill. He goes, did you guys live down there in Jewtown? I'm like, oh my God, what are you talking about here? I never heard that term.
You didn't hear it for 60 years, and you heard it twice a week.
And my father always said, everybody lived together. We had one thing in common. We were all poor.
Yeah.
You know?
And you know the other thing that you had in common to the white people, you were all black.
Yes.
And you know, and that's-
Teroni.
Yes.
Teroni.
There's a marvelous article in the New York Times. It's when Italians became white.
Yeah.
I recommend everybody.
I literally
I
just
thi-
bought
I-
a book
I-
that
I'm sure I
says.
read that.
Everybody reads it.
I think you sent me that.
I just bought a
Somebody
book the other
Yeah, I
day
did.
that was called "Were Italians Always White?"
Well, you know,
And I haven't read it yet.
The
I just
answer's
got it.
no.
No.
get
I
in
just got
trouble-
the book.
I get in trouble about that sometimes because, you know, I didn't experience it myself. I know my dad didn't. I know my grandfather did more.
I did not.
And you know, but the thing is, you know, I get really irate with Italian people that are racist
I do too.
because, you know, because
do
I said, you know, after your ancestors earned your
Yeah,
whiteness
would you
for
want to
you,
close the door?
yeah,
I mean, look,
Exactly.
what the hell was that? The Anti-Immigration Act. Was that
Yeah.
what it was? Yeah.
20
it was from 1922,
22, okay, yeah,
and it ended in 1961 when John Kennedy did it. And he only did it because the Italians
Because the
in Chicago
Irish were-
got him elected.
As a matter of fact, our cousin Sam across the street. We've talked about Sam across the street before.
Oh, you've met him before. He does
Yeah.
Soprasado with
Yeah, I
us.
know.
Yeah.
He's off the
Yeah,
boat.
yeah,
He's
yeah.
off the-
I-
Sam
a great
came
guy.
over in '69,
Yeah.
and they wanted to come for years, but
Yeah.
they weren't allowed
They
to
weren't
come
because-
until
yeah, exactly. And we forget that
yeah.
as a people. We forget
Yeah,
that. I think.
and as there was redlining for the black people, there was also blacklining for the Italians.
Exactly.
It wasn't as restricted, but it was also restricted.
I do remember my father. I don't know how old I am. Maybe I'm 5 or 6 years old. An African American family bought the house across the street, right? So now people are coming around, knocking. You know, this woman comes and knocks on our door. My father. I'm little, up to my father's knee. My father opens the door. African American woman there, dressed, put together. She says, "You might want to sell your house, you know, because you know the blacks are coming across the street." My father looked at her and goes, "Get the hell out of here!" And that's everything I ever needed to know about racism. My father, all of that stuff. You know, he's like, "Just get the hell out of here."
Right.
We give
Well,
out
yes.
cookies to this. I don't even know.
Okay, but
Yeah,
This is a
back
long-
to
this
the
is a
back to the
long-
cookies.
Larry, this is what we do. This is what we do here.
There was a scarecrow at the end
Yeah.
of that.
Larry, I'm typically the one that directs us back.
Just bring us back.
So let's bring us back.
Take us home.
All right, you got a book coming out.
I do.
Yeah.
Let's talk about this cookbook.
Yeah. So it's called My Black Book, and it is. So here's what happened. I had to write my new recipes. I had to transpose my recipes because the book that I had, my black binder, was just really destroyed. And so
I've
I thought,
seen
well,
it.
I'm going to just
Yeah.
and you've seen it.
We
I
know
did
what it
right
is.
from one to the other. So as I'm writing, transposing these recipes in longhand, I'm just thinking about how, like, where I got these recipes in the first place, where they ever came from. And, you know, I'm not young anymore. So I thought, you know, maybe I should tell the story. You know, like where these recipes come from. I was thinking about my kids and my grandchild. I was thinking, maybe I want to do this. So I just sat down and started writing where I got these recipes and who gave them to me. And it just kind of morphed into this book where I took 20 recipes and 20 stories. And there's some of the recipes that we sell at the store that are really popular, the ones that people love. So we have biscotti in there, and we have macaroons. We have polenta bars, which is a
Oh, I love
crazy
those.
story. You know what I mean?
I love those.
Just all the kinds of things that that people love at the store. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to put them in a book. So I have a friend of mine who's an editor. She edited it. The photography is spectacular. So it comes out the end of this month, the end of October, and we're ready to go.
Awesome.
It's kind of crazy, and the stories are wild, and they're just a
Well, and
lot
you
of fun.
showed me right before we started recording. I mean, those pictures are beautiful.
Yeah, they're pretty
It looks
nice.
incredible. It
Yeah.
looks like it's going to be a phenomenal book.
Well, thanks. I appreciate it. There's this, you're talking about Pittsburgh and the history and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I was working away in this little bakery, the 500 square foot space. And the Strip was very different 30 years ago. You know, I mean, the Strip was really still a lot of wholesale business.
Hell, even 20 years ago when Beth and I started hanging out
yeah.
there.
La Prima around the corner, Penn Mac, me, Stimulus. We were the businesses that comprised that area. And I was the new kid on the block. So I'm making these, and truck drivers are buying my cookies. People coming in at 6 o'clock in the morning, right? So people would come down to the Strip, restaurateurs, and they would buy things wholesale, and then they would go over to Penn Mac or whatever. And this guy would come into the store dressed. He's in a suit. He's got an overcoat on. He's wearing a hat, like a bowler hat, tie. And he would come in and he would buy things. And he bought my macarons and he came away. And he came back the next weekend and he bought more. And then he comes back the third week and he said, "Do you make almond macarons?" And I said, "No, I don't. I mean, it's not my tradition. I don't know. I don't do them." And he pulls out a little index card and he gives it to me and he says, "Here, you should try these. The recipe's nice. You should try it." Almond. It needed like a pound of almond paste, which cost at the time like $4. I didn't have $4. You know what I mean? I didn't have 2 nickels to rub together at the end of the day. But I managed to get a pound of almond paste and make these almond macaroons. And I made them because I knew he was coming. He came in, he got them, and the recipe says you have to pipe them. You pipe them into a little mound. I didn't have a pastry bag, so I just plopped them on the pan. And they were ugly, so I stuck an almond in them. The guy comes in, he buys the almond macarons, he goes, "They're good. These are really good." He said, "They're not mine, but they're good." And I appreciate that.
The biggest
compliment you can get.
Italian. That's right.
He said, "They're not mine, but they're good."
Yeah.
Well, it turns out there was a newspaper article, maybe a month or two, and he would come in, maybe a month or two later. He was the chef at the Duquesne Club, and he retired. And they asked him about his recipes, and he said, "Well, they're Duquesne Club recipes. I mean, the recipes stay with them." He said, "I gave a few away to some people who I knew would take care of them." And so that's my almond macaroon recipe.
Okay.
That's
You know what I mean?
amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's just crazy. I had a great opportunity to get some of those recipes and do them. So.
And you've actually won awards for those, haven't you?
Yeah. Well, we were in the New York Times, Epicurious, Sauveur, Bon Appetit said ours were some of the best in the country. Whatever. We're working.
That's pretty
You need to
amazing.
sell more, so buy some product.
And I'll agree with that. Buy some of his almond macaroons.
Buy
And his
some of the
biscotti and
It's a lot of fun. We're having fun.
I like coconut. I don't love it, but your coconut macaroons are out of this world.
they
My
really
brother
are.
said the same thing. We took them up there probably 4 or 5 years ago.
I remember Tony had shoved an entire one of the full-size macaroons in his mouth. Shoved the whole thing in his mouth. He goes, "This is coconut?" I was like, "Yeah." He goes, "This is fucking phenomenal." And like his mouth was stuffed.
I was talking about Dan.
I was talking about Tony.
We brought him up for a party one time, and he
Yeah.
was like, he took one of the chocolate ones, I think, and he took a bite of it, and he goes, "Is this coconut?" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "I don't even like coconut. This is the best thing I've ever eaten in my
Tony
life."
said the same thing. We did one of your dinners
I love
once with my brother, his wife at the time, and the three of us. And Tony shoved an entire macaron into his mouth at the party, and my sister-in-law was like, "Oh my god." Like,
Yeah,
so
she's
embarrassed
ready
the
to
whole
kill
time.
him.
She was ready to kill him, and he's like, "This is the best fucking thing I've ever tasted."
Well, there again, those coconut macaroons was, boy, and this goes to tradition and history and all of that stuff. So I'm at La Prima having a coffee. This is back in the old days, and this car pulls around the corner. It's a 1964 Dodge Polaris, right?
Okay, yeah.
It's blue,
Okay.
dark blue. This couple gets out of the car. She is this adorable little girl. He looks like a Greek god. This guy gets out of the car. He's got blonde hair down the middle of his back, cut like a V. I mean, he looks like something out of a superhero novel. They come in and they have a coffee, and they're very shy, whatever. And so I would see them down there maybe next day, 2 days from now, whatever. I would see them. So I started talking to them. It turns out that they are coming from Wisconsin. He's going to Pitt for a master's in poetry. And he said, I'm kind of looking for work, I mean. I said, Antonio, the baker, I said, Antonio needs somebody to help him. I can't help him anymore, but he needs somebody to help him. So the guy's name is Thor. Come on. I mean, his name is Thor, honestly, God.
Yeah.
He starts working for Antonio. So, the three of us are kind of bumping around in that space. At Christmas time, Thor and April, his wife, make little cookie trays because they didn't have any money. So they made little cookie trays for people. They give me a cookie tray. I eat this coconut macaroon. I'm like, sweet mother of Jesus. This is the best thing I've ever had. I said to Thor, where did you get this recipe? He said, I got it out of the joy of cooking. So
Oh my God.
I run to the joy of cooking. I get the recipe, I make it, and I eat it, and it's not the same. And I eat another one, not the same. So I give Thor, I eat this. Is this your macaroni? He goes, mm-mm. I said, what's going on here? He goes, well, it's from the joy of cooking. I go, yeah, I got the joy of cooking. So we go back and forth, and he writes the recipe down on a piece of paper and brings it, and this is from the joy of cooking. I look at it, I look at the recipe in the joy of cooking, and I go, they're not the same. These are different recipes. Here's the thing. He got the recipe out from his mother's edition of the Joy of Cooking, 1949.
Oh, okay.
My Joy of Cooking is my mother's recipe, 1979.
Yeah.
Big
It
difference.
changed.
A lot of shit
Do you
changed
know
in
what I
30
mean?
years, huh?
A lot of stuff changed in 30 years,
Yeah.
right? And I think this is the thing about recipes. Somebody said that writers and cooks are both thieves.
Yeah.
And I think it's really true.
Oh, no question.
We don't like sit in a laboratory and figure this shit out.
As a writer, I agree totally.
right?
Yeah.
We get this stuff from other people.
Yeah.
And then it's our job to pass it on.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
We got that silver spoon book up there. Where is it at?
Yeah,
Is
the
that what
silver
it's called?
spoon. That's a great
the red
book.
one.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'll just
Great
go in
book.
there and like looking for specials or whatever. I just go in there and take it and then change the shit out of it.
The chicken you
Take
made last
out what
week
I
was
don't
that.
want, add what I do want.
This is the thing that's so important.
Yeah.
This is the thing about cooking, about baking, about all this
Mm-hmm.
stuff. If you don't pass it on,
Yeah.
it's gonna go away. And
Well-
I'm reading Marcus Aurelius, who I love, and he is just there's this point he talks about legacy, because people are saying to him, "This is Marcus Aurelius, what do you want people to remember you forever?" And he said, "Forever, a legacy." He says the thing that people fail to realize is that the people who are going to remember you, they're going to be dead soon too.
Yeah.
So nobody's going to remember any of this stuff. If
Yeah.
you don't give it away,
Uh-huh.
then it's going to die with
I
you.
feel like
Yeah.
Beth's only context of Marcus Aurelius is the movie Gladiator. Just saying.
Well,
It's okay.
it's not a bad
Do you even
reference.
remember him in that movie? No.
Not a
he
bad
was,
reference.
He was Commodus's father, the Joaquin Phoenix's character's
Yeah.
father that died in the beginning.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But he was known as the philosopher emperor
He was.
of Rome. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And he really is. You should.
He is.
I mean, you've read
Oh,
him.
I've read it.
He's awesome.
Beth
He's
doesn't
unbelievable.
read.
I don't
It's
read. I
unbelievable.
listen to books on tape.
Well, and as a cook or a baker, I think what makes a cook or a baker is what they can steal and what they can make their own.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Because there's always a little bit of difference.
Yes.
Then, I mean, anybody can go into the joy of cooking and just follow it,
You're right.
But
Well-
the real cooks and the real bakers put a little bit of their own in there.
For example, my mom is very much, like I said she's German. She's very much a meat and potatoes person. Last week, Dad and Mom came over for dinner, and I made my mom this chicken pot pie with biscuits. She loved it. And she goes, "What did you do?" I said, "Well, I took, like 4 recipes from the internet and just kind of made it my own." She goes, "How do you do that?" She's a baker. Like, she's not a cook. She's a baker.
Yeah.
And she's always, very by the recipe. And she goes, "How do you do that?" I
Because
said,
for
"I don't
baking,
know."
you almost have to be, right?
You have to
Well,
be.
Well, you have to be,
A
but
little
there are
more
changes
so.
you can
There's-
make.
Right.
Yeah.
But you have to know what they are.
Baking is more chemistry than that, but once you learn the chemistry, then it's pretty easy.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, look, so you have this, this is awesome, historically. There's this bread that and today's indigenous peoples day. So there's this bread that that the indigenous Americans would make. And it was just flour and water and whatever else they put in it. And then they would take some potash. Can you imagine? Somebody was sitting around a stove or fire one day. They made this stuff, and some potash from the fire got into the dough. Well, you're not going to throw it away. What are you going to do? Make it again. You're in the middle of the plains. So this potash was incorporated in the dough, and it lifted. And it lifted like it never lifted before. Potash is called bicarbonate of aluminum, which is baking powder and baking soda.
Oh.
You know?
Yeah.
So that when you want something to lift, and you don't want to use yeast, you use bicarbonate of aluminum, which is baking soda plus baking powder. And once you know that, then you can take any recipe, chocolate chips or whatever, and you can go, all right, I want this one to lift. I want this to be a big, fluffy, all right, more baking powder, more baking soda. Or I want this one to be flat and beautiful. Less baking powder, less baking soda. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So once you know that,
Once you
just
know
like cooking,
the science behind it.
once you know the science, then it's
Yeah.
I didn't know that until
easy
30
stuff.
seconds ago.
There
Well,
you
you know
go.
the, and you know when on the Stanley Tucci thing last night, he's talking to this Calabrese guy that he's a cook, but he also has land and he specializes in taking the vegetation off the land, all different kinds of things, and putting them in. He made this meringue, and he said that I don't know how many years ago it was, but they had a lot of fires, and they had a lot of charcoal. He did a meringue with charcoal.
No kidding.
He threw the charcoal in. It's gray, and then he baked the living shit out of it, and it's hard.
Oh, wow.
And he put it into a dessert.
Oh, I can't wait to see that.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I
it's,
know.
it's
I'm
amazing.
gonna go home
fun.
and watch this immediately.
Yeah.
It still doesn't sound good to me, but it obviously was pretty decent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's doing good stuff. I think
He is.
His show's pretty incredible.
It is.
Yeah.
When he was in Naples, I know all those guys. I know all those guys in Naples.
Well, send me there because I'm going on a tour that Maria is arranging for me.
When are you going?
Hopefully in May.
Perfect.
That's the plan.
Perfect.
She just sent me like a final itinerary. We just got to publish it now and open it up to more
Great.
people.
Oh,
but
that'll be
yeah.
fun.
Yeah, it's all about the South. It's all about Napoli, Campania in general, Calabria. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Oh, you're gonna have a great time.
Oh my God, I'm so
We
excited.
need
You know-
20 people so I can go for free. So
Yep.
if you know anybody
That's
that's
what you need.
interested, send them up.
Yeah.
That's what you need.
But anyway, getting back to the Stanley Tucci thing, there's something I'd be remiss if I didn't bring this up. I got to give a shout out to actually two of my daughter-in-laws. Okay, when we were talking about the Morcello, and the wrapping in the linen, and it's not a fucking picnic.
Right.
Oh boy.
Well, I got to tell the story about when we used to make our families baked macaroni for parties. And so one day my wife says, well, could we use, let's use paper plates. And I just look at my wife and says, it's not a fucking picnic. We can't
Oh my
do that.
God! I can't believe you said that. I said it to my wife all the time.
Yeah, so anyway,
You guys are the same person.
I say exactly the same.
nothing much came of it because my wife's used to me being a stugazzo,
Yeah.
I mean, and saying stuff like that. And she didn't take a whole lot of offense to it. But then my other daughter-in-law came
It was-
with my stepson.
It was
from-
Isaac's first birthday
Yeah, it was
party.
Isaac's one of our grandson's first birthday parties. And poor Carrie. Carrie, I think, was like a little bit intimidated by me because, she's just
Oh,
like
you can be
a quiet
intimidating.
kid. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're a big guy.
And so she says, can we use paper plates or will we use paper plates? Says, it's not a fucking picnic. And it was just like as soon as I said it, I knew I said the wrong thing to her because I think she was a little intimidated by me to begin with because she didn't know me that well. So my other daughter-in-law, Gina, who's a full-blooded, remember the girl that when you were talking about about
The Southern Hairy Animals.
Southern
Oh, yeah,
Hairy Animal?
sure, yeah.
Remember the little dark Italian girl?
No, but anyway.
But
My
I'm sure
sister,
you wouldn't.
Jimmy's
'cause
mom.
I said
Okay.
you've
Jimmy's
done,
mom.
you said that to many people, I'm sure. But anyway, Gina, who's full-blooded Italian, now uses that against me. It's a fucking picnic. It's not a,
Oh, she does it all the time. Gina is the feistiest little
Yeah.
shit there
It's
is.
funny because I say that to Maureen all
Yeah.
the time, and I've taken to maybe in the past 5 years. I don't even know where it came from, but I start the hand thing too.
Yeah.
What are we in a picnic? We gotta go on a picnic. And
Like Tony Sirico.
My hand is rolling around here.
Well,
I'm like, what are you?
as
I
much
didn't
as
know you are.
as much as we take a lot of pride about being normal people, not highbrow or anything like, the old Italians are pretty formal.
Oh, well, they absolutely are.
They walk around in suits
And that
and.
bella figura, right?
Exactly.
Well,
The Godfather doesn't wear shorts, the whole deal.
Exactly.
I brought this up
Yeah.
before. Gay Talese, the writer, he said his dad was a tailor, so he wore suits most of his life.
Yeah.
And there was this time that his family told him that if you use a spoon to twirl your spaghetti, you're low class.
I agree.
Yeah.
Well,
I agree entirely. Thank you very much.
He said he was in a restaurant when he was a kid and he saw Joe DiMaggio twirling with a spoon. He goes, "Oh, can't be that bad." But his parents are like,
It's pretty bad.
Yeah.
And you know what? My hand doesn't work the way that it worked, but I still can twirl it.
"Oh,
Absolutely.
I've
Forget
never been
about
able to
it. I'm
twirl
not-
with a spoon. I've never been able to do it anyway."
There's
So
just no way. That's never going to happen. Never. Ever.
So anyway, Gina,
notes, Beth.
the Italian peasants who went down to their vineyards with their morcello
linen.
in linen, they knew it wasn't a fucking picnic. So I know it wasn't a fucking
It's
picnic,
not a picnic.
and you should know it wasn't a fucking picnic.
Awesome.
That's it. That's true.
What else do we want to talk about? Or are we pretty much? I don't know.
What's the time on there?
How do you tell?
I wouldn't mess with that thing too much.
It's an hour 9 minutes, so we're getting close to the
Yeah,
end.
we'll wrap up and we'll have Larry back again another
Great.
time to talk.
Yeah,
Hey.
we could do this for another
This was
6
super
hours.
fun.
Yeah,
This was
it
so
was.
much
This was
fun.
awesome.
Yeah.
This is amazing.
Thanks for
All right.
coming.
I'm really
Yeah.
enjoying this.
Thanks,
You were a
boss.
fantastic guest.
Thanks, boss.
The only problem is that
I still call you boss.
I know,
Even after
I
all
like
these
that.
years, I still call
I
you
do
boss.
love that.
the two old Dagos kept the
I
girls
know.
a little bit quiet, didn't
I
they?
know.
A little
Yeah.
bit. A little bit.
The old man.
Awesome.
Sorry, this is the kind of stuff we
But
need
the
to
good
hear.
thing about having you around is they're not as quick to stop me from getting off the deep end a little bit because
Oh, I don't know.
There's two of us.
I don't think either one of these girls have any holds there.
We always
They
say
would
we want
stop
to
me
we
as
want to
well.
see a podcast of all old Italian men and just let you guys go and see what happens.
Boy, that would be a
Yeah,
nightmare.
you two and
I
Sam
can't even
Patty. And
imagine.
yeah, we went.
And
you,
Jimmy-
me, Sam
Jimmy
Patty, and
Sinceri.
Jimmy Sinceri. I wonder
That
if
would
we
be
can
like
get us
a
all together.
nightmare, man.
Let's let
I
it
just
go.
saw Jimmy the other day
It's
at
like a horror
Bellinarte.
film.
He wants to come up.
Does he? Well, next time you see him, tell him we want to do that.
He's a good guy.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
great. Yeah, he was doing very well. He said for the first time in
Good.
years, no pain.
Good.
Oh,
Just
nice.
Oh my
just
God.
like in
Oh, that's
general.
so good
Yeah,
to hear.
yeah.
You know,
That's
he's
awesome.
a legend of Pittsburgh. I mean, he's
Yeah.
he's
Oh,
Oh,
him
here,
and
wait,
his
this is
cigar,
funny.
I mean.
I'll tell you this. You speak of him being a legend, right? So he tells me, he goes, my wife gets so mad when we go out to eat. He says, everybody keeps coming over and interrupting us. And she says, why do you have to talk to everybody? And he says, they're coming and talking to me. So he goes, I went over to Market District over in Shadyside. And he said he didn't have the cigar in his mouth. He had a hat on. And this lady walks up to him and says, oh, Jimmy, it's so good to see you. How have you been? Blah, blah, blah. And he goes, listen, lady, I don't know who you think I am, but it's not me. What's up, Tony? You can just set it over there for us.
Thanks, Tony.
You know, the crazy thing is
Thank you.
We were on that PBS show, the Strip Show.
Yeah.
You know, when they
Yeah.
did the whole thing, and people still watch it, and they still come in and talk about it. And I think of all the people who are in that show, it's me, Nino, and Jimmy. We're the only three that's still alive.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I'm like, dude, man, what?
And you guys will be alive for a long time.
Hey, I hope so.
Come
What
on.
was the name of the
What are we
show?
gonna do? The Strip Show.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
You saw it, didn't you?
It's
Think
just
so.
the three of us. We're the
You
only
know,
ones left.
The funny thing is, I'm already starting to see it with me, and I can imagine what you're like, and Jimmy, who's been there forever, and Sam Patty. I mean, people think that I'm really something because I'm Papa Joe.
Oh,
you
it's
talking about?
funny. People
know,
come
and
in
it's
here,
like-
they're like, "Oh my God, that's Papa Joe. That's the winemaker."
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, somebody. I mean, it's funny. I was at Penmac on Saturday, getting some cheese for the trip to the party at the Plot, which is always a good time. Anyway, I was standing there, and the woman says to her husband, "Do you think we should get that? You know that? What do you think about that cheese?" I said, "That's really nice. It's a nice little blend, and you're gonna like that cheese. That's good cheese." She goes, and her husband goes, "Enrico," and I said, "Yeah." So they get the cheese, and the woman's talking to her husband, and she takes it and she puts it in my basket, right? And I said, you know what? I appreciate that you know who I am, but I'm not buying your cheese. She was just like absent-minded, It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I know.
That's
Not
great.
buying-
You know, it's funny. Every once in a while, I'll be, I do anesthesia now up at St. Margaret's over in Aspinwall, right across the bridge. And every once in a while, I'll get somebody, Papa Joe's doing me anesthetic. It's like,
Like
Yeah, well-
people you don't know.
the people I
Oh
don't
yeah,
know, yeah.
well, I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
I typically don't know anybody who does that. Maureen, my wife, gets so she doesn't get upset anymore. She used to, but she doesn't get upset anymore when people in places where we're not supposed to, like we're in Manhattan, or we're on the Eastern Shore, we're in Florida, we're like, and people would be like, Enrico.
Yeah.
And Mari's like, oh, you little. I'm like, I didn't do anything.
Yeah, what are you going to do?
What she wants you to do? Wear a bag over your
I
head?
didn't do anything. Well.
Yeah,
Awesome.
you could be like the old New Orleans fans that put the bag over your, called themselves the Aints.
Yeah.
And that's what we have to do with the Steelers now.
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
Well, I've never had anybody in Italy recognize me or in Manhattan or anything.
Well, that happened to us in Italy. It happened to us in Rome, yeah.
Oh my God.
Somebody was going, Enrico. And I'm walking down the street and I hear it.
You're in Italy.
But I'm
Somebody's
thinking to myself,
else
I'm in
named
Italy,
Enrico.
man. I'm talking about me. And then there's a tap on my shoulder and I'm like, what?
Yeah. I get people coming up to me at
what?
stores that say,
Right.
"Oh,
You had that at Target.
I don't like to make people know that I'm talking about them."
No, but you had it at a store last month.
So and then people will come up to me and say, "Oh, how are you? What are you doing here?" I'm like, what? "How the fuck do you
who
know
are
who I
you?"
am?"
Yeah.
And we love your restaurant and stuff. And I'm like, "Oh, okay." But it's funny because when we used to work for you, people would come in. "Oh, how's Larry doing? I haven't seen him in months." And tell him so and so said hi. And I'd say, "Oh, so and so said hi." And you go, "I don't know who the fuck that is."
That's
But
true. It
it's
happens all the
getting-
time.
I never
And
thought it would
that's,
happen.
And now we're
starting.
getting into that.
It's part of the
Yeah.
fun. I mean, that's a lot of fun. It really is fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's part of the good part.
No,
that's the good part.
I don't mind it at all.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I just sometimes wish that I actually could remember people's names.
Me too.
Well, she comes to me because I'm the front of house manager, and I have gotten to the point where I recognize a lot of these people. Not all of them, but I recognize a lot of them. And I'll say, "Oh, this person said hi." She's like, "Who's that?" And I'm like,
Well, you
"I'll
guys-
describe them."
You two can't do this yet, but I can. You can. People come in and they'll say like, "Hey, how you doing?" I'll be like, "Hey, I'm good." "Do you remember me?" And I say, "I'm sorry, I don't.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I don't."
No, I
I mean,
pretend
it's
to know.
honest and it's just real, and so you need to tell me who you are. I used to work for you, and I'll say, "Boy, you know what? There've been so many. You tell me who you are."
Well, at least you remember these two.
Oh yeah, come on.
Oh,
But
yeah.
that one you can't
Been
forget.
trying to forget
No,
me.
there's no way. It's never gonna happen.
Yeah, I've
You know what I
forgotten
mean?
people that I knew really well at one time.
That's part of age.
Well, it doesn't
Yeah.
help
It
with
is.
the pandemic too. You started working in a new hospital, and you said you couldn't recognize anyone without their mask.
Oh, I know.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah. Yeah,
One of
'cause
my
when I-
bakers, is still masked up every day.
When I
Which
went
is
to
fine,
the-
no judgment,
yeah.
man. Do what,
No.
do
Yeah.
what you do.
But we're still wearing masks at the hospitals.
Yeah, sure.
And I started at St. Margaret's after COVID, so I've never seen some of these people. And I one day was saying, I said everybody is either the dark-haired girl with the pretty eyes or the blonde girl with the pretty eyes.
That's how he differentiates them.
I was saying
Notice
that.
the pretty eyes is in there.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And I was
You know what I mean?
saying that in front of one of the plastic surgeons that I've actually probably never seen her face. And I was telling a patient, I said, and I look at the plastic surgeon over there, and I said, and she's the surgeon with the pretty eyes. I said, she actually was happy with that comment. But
That's great.
That's
but I mean, it's just the way it is.
Yeah,
You know?
it is.
Yeah.
It is.
Awesome. All right, I think we're good for today. Let's.
I think it was fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, this was fun.
This was
Oh,
a lot
it's
of fun.
giant fun.
Yeah.
Are you kidding?
Larry, you're
This was
coming back,
super-
right?
I'd love to come
Yeah,
back.
Awesome.
good.
Thank you very much.
Awesome.
That's
Awesome.
fun.
Yeah, I think next time we'll go we'll split some of the baking things.
Yeah, we
Rather
definitely
than
want to
just
hear
do an
more about
overview.
the history of bread as you talk about
We
it
can
in your
do
bread
it.
class, because
We can- I'll be happy
that's
to
so
do
much
it.
But
fun.
this is what we like though, that Katie didn't have any notes and she was freaking out. We were like, it's
Little bit.
Larry, like it's just gonna
A little
gonna
bit.
flow.
Yeah.
It's
Oh,
gonna
well,
be
that's
just
me.
fine.
me.
That's
Yeah.
me though. Like I am a very organized like freak when it comes to stuff like that, and I'm like, shit, I don't know what to talk about. Where Dad keeps looking at me to lead the discussion, I'm like, what do I do now?
Yeah.
No, this is fun.
So
looks fun.
what's the
This
name?
was great.
What's the name of your book?
My Black Book.
My Black Book.
Yeah, because it was my black binder.
All right, and where can they buy it?
You can get it at enricobiscotti.com.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Got that? Everybody go buy one.
Thank you.
We're
Well,
gonna
thanks,
we're gonna
Larry.
take
I mean,
notes
thank
of the
you.
people that watch this
So
and don't
fun.
buy it.
This
We're gonna
was
come
great.
over.
Yeah,
come
we're
after
coming to
you.
your house.
I got a baseball bat. I'm coming
We're bringing
over.
some sauce.
Yeah, let's go.
Next time we have a family dinner like we've had.
Yeah.
You know what we got to do?
What?
Big night Timpano.
Timpano.
let's do it.
Timpano.
Let's do that, yeah.
Timpano, yeah, let's do it.
Timpano,
Yeah,
yeah.
let's do, yeah. You need a big group for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. That's a massive dish.
That's a massive dish.
Yeah.
We'll
Yeah.
make it together.
Let's do
Me
it.
and you.
Hey.
We'll do it.
You tell me.
I love
Maureen
it.
said next time's at your house.
Oh boy.
All right.
All right. With that, I'm taking off the headphones.
All right.
Well, thank you, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
This has been great.
This
Thanks.
is great. Thank you.
Awesome.
Clap
That
your
was
hands.
super fun.
Nice job, guys.
Really, that was great fun. Oh, that was nice. It was good.
Larry,
good
thank you so
talk.
much.
Thank you. This was really fun.
You can do this anytime with us. We love
See,
doing
I
this.
think
This isn't work.
That's what I was just gonna say.
Yeah.
This is what keeps you guys.
Well,
fresh, man,
that was what the
because this
marketers
is-
were saying. This is what makes us different because we're
Yeah.
doing everything right. We're different. Like,
Ain't no way I'm doing a podcast. No way.
well, you're
Now,
coming
will
up here.
you and then what happens with
You're
the
on
editing? Do you have to edit this?
much,
Not
but
much,
yes.
but yeah. I mean, we pretty much leave it like it is because we want it to stay spontaneous.
That thing recorded, right? Is the light still on?
Light's still on.
All right, because I'm not sure when
Oh.
the film stopped.
Oh, it stopped. Crap. Did I run out of space? I've been deleting stuff.
Shit.
It is what it is. We'll figure it out.
How long we got?
About 48 minutes.
Well, we talked a lot.
Oh,
So
that's
we're-
not good.
Oh,
Why?
it happened.
Huh?
Why?
Because we went for an hour and 20.
Yeah, we went for an hour and 20.
Well, you just want a video of the last half hour, that's all.
Okay, so yeah, what we'll do is we'll.
It is what it is. We'll just have to-
You know what? Most people are doing it on Spotify anyway.
I don't think
Right?
many people
Is that?
watch on YouTube.
Do you know who does what, where, when? You know who listens? Or, you know how many people listen?
We
had-
can find out. I haven't looked yet, but we can find
The
out.
one we had 78 views.
Okay.
That was the YouTube. I don't know about the Spotify though.
I mean, I just wonder if you go like, gee, 100 people listen to this, or
We can get that. Yeah.
Let's see if Spotify tells us here.
Oh, I'm sure they do.
what a fun thing. This was great. It's just fun talking about all this stuff too.
Oh, it is. It really is.
You remember?
You know,
and
this is
you think.
kind of like I remember as a kid listening to the old people talk at my grandmother's house. It's exactly
You
like
would
that.
run around the floor
Yeah.
and hear those stories.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
you've heard the stories 100 times, but they
You
never
totally hear 'em
they
again.
never stop being entertaining.
I don't know, man.
We had a, and again, it makes me think of us. Yesterday, we did a party at the plot. So I don't know, maybe it's 10 years ago, I went to a yoga class. I'm driving home. There's a sign on the side of the road that says like the Memorial Park. And it's pretty, yeah, good. I see the sign every time I come back from the yoga class. And it's at the cemetery, Allegheny Cemetery. So one day I pull in, and I said, "What's up with this memorial walk? Well, you know, what's going on with that?" The guy says, "Well, it's a place, you know, it's a crematory, and then the cremation remains we bury in this walkway, and it's really nice pathway and all that stuff." I said, "Kid, yeah, you want to see it? Yeah, I want to see it." So he drives me over there, and you walk down this little path. Beautiful flagstones everywhere, benches, nice, beautiful, and I'm sitting there, and the trees are around, the birds are singing. And I said, "This is really nice, man. I think this is like what if I wanted to be like right there?" And the guy goes, "You couldn't afford that." I said, "I couldn't afford that. I want two." So it hooked me, right? So the bottom line is, so I got these little plots, right, in Memorial Walk. So now every quarter, every season, John and Monica, Maureen and I, we have a party at the plot. We go and we sit in the flagstone thing with the little benches, and he brings food and I bring wine, and we sit and party at the plot.
That's so
We
cool.
did it yesterday. You know?
Yeah.
So yesterday was our fall party at the plot. And it's just like you said, man, you just start talking and
Yeah,
remembering, and it's fun.
it is fun. Yeah.
That's all there is. You know.